Alright, this is the 2JZ GT with a Master Power GT45. The size of the turbo is really big to sit on the manifold, so we had to weld an elbow on in order to do the pipe to come around for the feed the intercooler. Pretty much manifold is on, turbo is in, wastegate is bolted on the bottom, the fuel rail is in. We used the Vicker Racing product fuel rail, all A&N fittings. Okay, actually SX fuel pressure regulator from Japan. We're going to go ahead now and complete the intercooler piping, install the intercooler, and get her ready for startup. Once we get a fire going, we're going to go ahead and do a 4-inch downpipe for the car. Where I left off before, we were going to do the intercooler piping for the 2JZ GTE. Now if you look, you can see that we went with 3-inch piping all the way around. We're using a GT45 turbo with a 105 back. We got the blow-off valve tucked nicely right above the radiator and nice angle going in. Everything is all mapped out and jigged. We're going to pull everything back out and polish it so it gives a nice show quality. The pink valve cover, as I explained earlier, is because the owner of this car is female, Sarina, and she requested her valve cover. Initially, we were going to do a 3-inch downpipe. We decided not to go with the 3-inch downpipe because of the size of the turbo. We're going to go with a 4-inch downpipe now. Just for comparison reasons, this is a piece of 4-inch exhaust piping. This is a 3-inch intake intercooler piping. Now, mind you, many cars use a 3-inch downpipe because of the size turbo they use. This is more than sufficient. Look at the difference. So, this should be pretty interesting. Alright, what we just did was clean up the welds inside of the downpipe. This is the exit from the turbo. So you want little or no restriction as possible. So, you know, when you weld, sometimes you get the bubble inside, you want a smooth pipe, you grind it out much the same way you would grind a head out. This way, it's nice and smooth. You don't even know that it was welded, at least from the inside. Then let's go throw this thing in. This is a big mother. Okay. Now, what I like to do when I do my V-band is I like for my V-band to just sit and lock in place even without the clamp holding it in. And if you take a look, you'll see that's exactly what this does. It sits perfectly inside, matches up without the V-band. So that makes it a little easy to put the V-band on. Also, I know I'm guaranteed a good seal. All right. I'll catch this up just enough to hold it sealed, but where if I need to rotate it when I'm on the bottom, I can do that. So we're in. Everything sits nice. Now let's go to the bottom, match up the other pipe, weld the V-band on and put that piece in. All right. What we did is we have the downpipe in the car and we're completing the rest of the exhaust. We're using a 4-inch V-band so that if we have to take out the downpipe, it's not a lot of work. You can see the bend. Everything is mandrel bent going all the way to a racing 4-inch exhaust and then out. So what we're going to do now is we're basically just going to position the pipe and then tack it into place. Once it's in place where we want it, we're going to pull it out and put it on the bench to take it. So that looks about good. Got a little bit of an opening here, so we're going to do just a minor adjustment. I'm going to go ahead and just put a tack in right here. This one, just got to make sure this is turned up and in the position we want it. Now we're just going to check the back before we do the last tack. Okay. Exhaust looks good. Pull it out and weld it. All right, I finished making the 4-inch exhaust. It was initially a 3-inch, but the tuner, from Wayne Speed, he's going to program the AEM. He said for that size turbo, the best thing to do is a 4-inch. And as a lot of you guys know, a lot of the cars that are running 1,000+ horsepower do use a 4-inch exhaust. It was a little iffy because this is a street car, but hey, what the hell? Welcome to racing. All right, so if you want to take a look, I'll show you the exhaust system. We used a Cook's 4-inch muffler. We're the only one who can get in such short notice. It's really good because it's high flowing, but it's also noisy. So more than likely later on, we're going to put a silencer in the tip just for when she's driving on the street. The exhaust follows as much as the body contour as possible. Goes into a V-band, and then from the V-band, that's where our downpipe comes. So this comes from the turbo down to here, and this is where the exhaust actually starts. As you can tell, there's no resonators inside there, obviously no cat. That's going to be an issue, but later on, if it becomes an issue, we could always add those things in. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tighten up the bottom end, secure the fuel line, and drain the oil because it's a brand new turbo, so we have to make sure that there's fresh oil inside it before we start it. And as you know, when you put a new turbo on a car, you don't start the car. You crank the car to build up oil pressure. Once you're sure that there's enough oil pressure going into the turbo and the turbo is spinning nicely, then you start the car. Why? Because if not, you're going to scuff the bearings inside, and very shortly after having the car, you're going to smoke the turbo. Not good, especially when you got a $1,400 turbo sitting on your car. All right.
Watch your mouth, watch your mouth, watch your mouth.